always say that it's not, it's radical, like, your notions between the social justice principles and the ecology principles combined, and the barriers that it can pose to, the bottom-up process. I'm just wondering if you can share some of your experiences with the challenges and barriers to those kinds of notions being brought together.
To bringing those notions together. Yeah, I think people have had great difficulty bringing them together. I remember I was some years ago very involved in green politics in Western Australia, and the people in the Greens there having a great deal of difficulty thinking social justice at the same time as they were thinking environment. Wanting to say we've got to have a carbon tax without thinking about what that does for people on low incomes, and how you can't just do one thing. You've got to accompany something like a carbon tax with other policies that are going to... Now, that argument gets made wonderfully by business. We can't possibly have an emissions trading scheme without making sure we protect businesses and protect profits and protect jobs and so on. But we've got to be making the same argument around social justice. Well, you can't have an emissions trading scheme without looking at what that does for the most disadvantaged people in society. Does it actually make things worse for the people who can least afford to cope, as climate change tends to do? I think similarly, people in the social justice area have been slow to pick up some of the environmental things as being critically important. We've tended to go our own sort of sweet ways, each thinking the other's important, not quite knowing how to make a connection. I think there are people who do, like Jose, for example, and the work that he does really makes that connection very strongly. But the traditional boundaries that we've got really hamper coming up with... I was really struck by that. It's not quite what you're talking about. When I went to a conference a few years ago about art and human rights, I thought, oh wow, this will be interesting, art and human rights. Went along to this conference. It consisted of a whole lot of artists and people from the arts community who thought human rights were really important but didn't know very much about it. And a whole lot of people from the human rights community who thought art was important but didn't know very much about it. And we were speaking two different languages. There wasn't it was very hard to create the space for a true dialogue between those two groups. And that's the sad thing about the kind of way we've gone about our work generally, our intellectual work. It happens in universities. People from any one discipline find it very difficult to talk to people from another discipline. They don't have a vocabulary to do it, or they have massive misconceptions about the other one, and so on. So talking across boundaries has become really important, and being holistic and looking for unusual partners. We were actually talking before at morning tea about possible partners for community development. They come from